We're going out to Toronto now. A little hockey talk this morning on the Rod Pedersen Show. Paul Hendrick joining us from the Maple Leafs reporter. I don't even know why I'm part of this because we got the two biggest Leaf fans in the province. You over there, Darren Dupont, and our producer, Clark, on this side of the wall. Paul, welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show, my friend. How's July in Toronto?
It's hot and it's muggy, Rod, but we were out in Saskatoon for a preseason game a few years ago, and the place was packed, and there were so many Leaf fans out there, and I mean, that's just old school. And the funny thing was, Edward Encarnacion had hit the walk-off home run to send Toronto into the next round in that wild card game, but just seconds before that happened, the Leafs scored, so there was a double sort of like cheering, but everybody had the game on in terms of watching it on their phones and, of course, watching the game inside the arena. But when we get a chance to go out west, there are just so many fans that cheer for the Leafs, with exception of possibly going into Vancouver, where they hate everything Toronto.
Hey, don't worry. They hate the Canucks, too. Paul, listen, I am going to turn these guys loose on you. My question is, lots going on in Toronto with the Leafs right now. How's the summer been? What's the latest on Mitch Marner, and how are things in the Leafs Nation? And then I'll let these guys take over.
Well, they're unsettled right now, and everyone's fearing the worst. But I don't think there's any need to fear that Mitch Marner is going to depart. I think that's going to get settled. Leafs obviously hope it happens before training camp. Mike Babcock hope it happens before training camp so they can get lines in order. But there's also talk that this might not get done until the end of training camp, that Mitch will be back for the start of the regular season in that opening game, I guess, against Ottawa. And but it's going to be a continuing soap opera. But, you know, back in the day, you were rewarded for what you have achieved. And although Mitch has had two really great years in the National Hockey League, they're being paid now. That's just the modern reality of today's economics. You're paid for what you're going to be doing, as opposed to what you've accomplished already. So the Leafs are in deep, no doubt about that. Tavares in for 11 plus, Austin Matthews 11 plus, and Mitch, deservedly so, given what he's been able to do the last few years. Thinks he's ready for that kind of money as well. And his agent and his father, Paul, are going to stick by their guns. And we'll see how this all manages out. I think Mike Babcock might be pulling his hair a bit, but such is life in the National Hockey League at this point in time.
And he's got great hair, and he could afford to lose a little. Go ahead, Dupes. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Canadian Football League and the big quarterbacks and the $700,000 and $800,000 quarterbacks. Now we don't know if that's going to work yet. We haven't seen it work yet, and but we're seeing this in the NHL and the moves that have been made. It's all about the salary cap, the Kadri trade, bringing David Clarkson back, but that's going to open up more room for Mitch Marner and different technicalities to work around the cap is made a guy like Kyle Dubas, a general manager, to navigate this. But how do you evaluate the job he's done and the changing of the guard, so to speak, in this era?
Well, I think he's done a great job, and it's a really good question. Brandon Purdom is the capologist, the assistant general manager on the team, and he does the lion's share of trying to figure out this Rubik's Cube economically and how it's all going to fit in come training camp and come, obviously, the start of the regular season when rosters are declared October the 1st. But to get back to what Kyle's done, it's hard to believe he's 34 years of age, just 34 years of age, and in a market like this, it's 12 months of the year. I remember I was in Johannesburg, South Africa a couple of years ago, and a guy comes up to me in the airport. He's from Australia, never been to Canada, but he's a huge Toronto Maple Leaf fan. So it's just a meager little example of just the interest that goes on. Kyle's handled it well. He's surrounded by a terrific team. They've drafted well the last 5 years, and they've got a good hockey club. And I know their role is a continuity in terms of success. It's tough to win a Stanley Cup, but you look at examples like Washington, and then this past June in St. Louis, teams have been in it long enough, and all of a sudden they get their opportunity. There's so much parity in the NHL, and I think Kyle's done a good job of drafting well and maintaining that. Now it's trying to fit in those high elite guys and then finding $700,000 players for the third and fourth lines and the bottom pairing defensively. And of course, that second goaltender to keep things going competitively in an economic fashion. But off the ice, he's handled the pressure, and they've got a good hockey club this year. They're somewhere in the top 8, depending on injuries, and we'll see what happens. But they've had three really tough years in the playoffs, but they've been there. They've been learning years, and for Kyle, for Mike, and the rest of his hockey club, I think there's a chance to move up this spring, and they've got a good enough club to get it done.
What do we have to look forward to in terms of deadlines? I know that there's been free agency, there's offer sheets. You talked about getting the deal done with Marner before training camp. Are there any deadlines that we should be aware of that put pressure on Kyle Dubas and Mitch Marner and the agents, et cetera?
No, that's the big one. And, last year it was William Nylander, and that went right to the last couple of minutes when the team was getting ready to head on the ice to take on the Wild in Minneapolis-St. Paul. I don't think they want that to happen this time around. I don't think it is going to happen. So the only pressing one is Mitch Marner. And it's pressing. I mean, it impacts a lot of things. It impacts your top line. No surprise that John Tavares has a career year with 47 goals. Well, there's somebody getting him the puck. But on the other side of that, Mitch Marner had a career year as well with 94 points. He had John Tavares to play with. So I think the sooner they get him back, the sooner Mike Babcock's going to be happy about his situation. They're going to be missing a couple of players in Travis Dermott defensively and Zach Hyman up front as they recover from off-season surgeries. So the more bodies you can have in there, but especially somebody as fluid and talented as Mitch Marner, they'd like to get that done by training camp. But, you hear rumblings that this isn't going to get done through training camp, and that will just increase the soap opera-like atmosphere that could be Toronto in the event that happens. But the bottom line is they're going to get this done, and I think they get it done before October 1.
Last one for you, Paul Hendrick, from producer Clark here, the other Leafs fan in the sandwich. He says, you brought up Willie Nylander a couple times. How much of what they went through last year is souring the Marner stuff, Marner talk, and the negotiation?
Yeah, and Clark's right. And Rod, they want to get this done. It wasn't right. And then the other thing is Willie comes back and he tries to get, this is mid-season, and a treadmill, it's going 85 miles an hour and trying to get on that treadmill and being competitive right away. A few players have missed all of training camp and were able to come back and contribute. Mario Lemieux's one of them. We might debate one or two more, but it's virtually impossible. And as good as Mitch is, I don't think he wants to find himself in that situation because William Nylander was a fish out of water, and I don't think he ever really got caught up. I expect a big season from him. I think he has plenty to prove here, and the Leafs are looking forward to him proving it come training camp next month.
Well, this has been a great update for the Leafs fans of our viewers and listeners, Paul. Great to see you, hear from you, and thanks for this. Enjoy what's left of summer if you guys ever get one in the Leafs Nation there.
Yeah, and the Rough Riders broke my heart as an Ottawa football fan back in 1966 with that Grey Cup win. I know we got back in 69 and won that big game in 76 with the catch. But I remember back, I was 10 years of age, and my parents had to console me. I just thought it was the end of the world. But you look back on it, and Ford and Reed and Ronnie Lancaster, of course, what a great team it was. And of course, that historic first one for Saskatchewan. I'm a big CFL fan, and those were great days back then, even with the loss out in Vancouver to Saskatchewan.
Well, think of the good times, Paul. Think of the good times. That's all I can say. Thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.